We are back after an extended weekend, as are the markets. Things are a little boring as we kick off what could be a volatile week here. We're seeing energy going up there in price off the news from Russia and Saudi Arabia. Crypto trying to hold some key levels of support. Is Solana the chosen one for the next bull cycle? We're going to talk about all of that and more today on Money Never Sleeps. As we get going, everybody, quick reminder, hit that button down below, smash the like, subscribe, all of that good stuff. Nothing Kevin or I say is financial advice. We are not financial advisors for a few guys who love following the markets. So please do your own research before making any buys or sells. Kev, it's a ho-hum kind of a day in the TradFi markets. We're seeing everything just kind of treading water a little bit. Some movement in tech, Tesla and Netflix are having good days. Everything else just kind of, putzing around. The big story, though, is oil. Brent broke $90 a barrel. WTI got up as high as 88. It's back down a little bit to 86, but we are seeing the highest oil prices we've had in quite a while on the news that Russia and Saudi Arabia are going to extend their supply cuts through the end of the year. The original prediction by people who follow this market closely was they would, extend it through September. Now it's through the end of the year. That's quite a while. And the question becomes, how much of an impact on inflation will that have? Let's talk about that in a second. But first, what else are you seeing in the markets that is drawing your attention?
Yeah, honestly, it's been very quiet few days. Haven't even looked at the charts too much because I knew that there wasn't going to be too much trading back and forth. Number one thing I think that we need to be keeping an eye on is the dollar. Dollar's having a great day. Great start to the week. This is what we wanted to see. We talked about it last week, and we talked about it, before around the monthly close. So it's good to see the dollar moving to the upside. I've been keeping an eye on a lot of information regarding banks. Bank term funding program, all those the Federal Home Loan Bank loans, taking a look at some of that data. Also keep an eye on Country Garden. Nothing that we have to go into too much with that, but they had to pay a $22.5 million loan on interest. They made that payment, so they've dodged two bullets so far. Let's see if they can keep it up. They still got $187 billion worth of liabilities still there. But yeah, banks and the dollar has been all I've been keeping my eye on. Crypto has been very boring for the past, 3-4 days here.
We're seeing the dollar have a consistent positive move against the euro as well, which is something we should keep in mind with the struggles we're seeing out of the Eurozone with their fight against inflation. There will be a point where the dollar is going to be, moving US dollars into European investments. I think is going to be a very strong play. Nothing goes down forever, right? Like Europe's not going to just disappear. There will be a bounce back. But if we continue to see the euro move, closer to parity, there's going to be a big buying opportunity because your dollar is going to go farther in the investments over in that market. So I do think that is something that we should continue to keep an eye on as we discuss other markets besides the US, ones that are struggling. We have to also look next week. We'll get the inflation reading. We'll see what kind of impact that has. Just briefly going through the news that's going to come out this week that we know of, very little on the economic data standpoint. There's some ISM reports, some things like that. Those don't tend to move the market very much. What is going to have an impact this week is the amount of Fed presidents who are speaking. Tomorrow we get Susan Collins. We also get the Fed Beige book that's going to give us a better insight into what the different, Fed branches are seeing in their regions. Then on Thursday, we'll get Harker, Goolsby, Williams, Bostic, and Logan are all speaking. Those five Fed presidents, and then we'll get Mary Daly on Friday. So 7 different Fed presidents speaking this week. Inflation is going to be a big topic. I have to imagine their view on the oil supply being cut and what that's going to mean for inflation is also going to be discussed. So let's talk about that now, because that is something that you and I have been discussing for quite a while. And I don't know if we're out to lunch. It seems like a lot of other people aren't as concerned with the rising oil price and what that's going to do to inflation, and in turn, how that's going to impact what the Fed does, and it making it, everyone's assuming that we're going to get this soft landing. Well, this oil price jump or oil supply cut is going to make that landing a little bumpier. So what do you think we're going to see here in the coming months from inflation with the price of oil, with oil's price going up?
I think inflation is going to go up. I mean, that's just my honest opinion. I think there's double-edged sword here, right? The U.S. is weaponizing the dollar, so the the value of the dollar is going up, but at the same time, the price of oil is also going up. So even though the price of oil is going up, so that we have to buy it, some of these countries like Russia and a lot of these other ones, I know that they're not doing trades in the U.S. dollar as much as they once were. Uh, this definitely hurts the value of their currency, right? So I think that regardless, if the dollar goes up and we also see oil go up, that's just a recipe for disaster. Inflation would be going up most likely. The dollar is, for me, the leading indicator of what's going to happen. I mean, if the dollar keeps going up, that's going to be really negative for risk assets. But I mean, if oil goes up, that's going to be terrible for inflation, which in turn the Fed would kind of be forced to have to make a play here. What if they do 25 basis points, right? I think that CPI data that we're going to get for the month of August next week, it's probably going to be a little hotter than we expect, and maybe estimates are starting to be anticipating hotter readings. It's very possible, but that just shows that inflation's going up, and I think based
To
off
that point, real quick, Kev, I'm looking at the Fed fund probabilities right now. Nothing changed for the September meeting. The probability they're still showing at 93%. But however, the November meeting probability moved significantly toward a rate hike there. Yesterday, it was at 65% of no hike. Now it is at 50.6%. So basically, like, is a coin flip at this point whether or not the Fed is going to raise rates. So seems like the market believes that no matter what CPI brings next week, rates are going to stay the same. However, this supply cut of oil is definitely impacting what people view for November and potentially December as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think that September is definitely the numbers that we've gotten since the start of the month. Inflation's probably going to go up considerably in the month of September, right? That's just to start off the month, right? August, it went up, but it's not as much as I believe we have gone up so far this month, this quick. So I think that, it's very possible we don't get the rate hike in, September, the week of the 8th, the 19th, and the 20th, I believe FOMC is. It's very possible we don't get it. But I think that if we do get an extremely bad number, maybe those odds change a little bit. But I mean, I'm still anticipating at least one more rate hike this year. I think that's a very reasonable thing. And again, if oil continues to go up, then they're going to have to assess whether are they doing enough and have they acted fast enough too. So if they don't act fast enough and we start seeing inflation, start to rise, but unemployment also rises too, that's not a good battle for the Fed either. That's stagflation there. So it's a really tricky situation right now these next few months, and I think that oil is not adding to for a pun here. It's adding fuel to the fire.
Indeed, it is, Kevin. Great pun. We're also seeing this reflected in the bond market. Everything is green over there. The biggest gainer on the day, though, is the 1-year Treasury up to 5.4%. So, I think a lot of people are viewing bonds as, this next year could be rocky for us. Let's try to lock in a safe rate here. I got some like 6-month bonds that I'm holding right now, but outside of that, not really playing around in those waters. We had a little bit of news in crypto today. Solana is going to be working with Visa, in the years ahead. That led to a nice little pump in the price of Solana. It's come back down just a little bit now, wicked up to about $20.58, 59 cents. I think that I've never been a huge Solana guy, but that might be something that I add into my DCA portfolio here in the coming weeks or months. If we see that pullback that you're expecting, still only DCAing Bitcoin and a little bit of Ethereum at these levels because, like I said before, I'm happy buying it at this price, and I'll make a bigger buy if and when it goes down. But let's take a look at Solana's chart, which you have pulled up right here, and kind of see, we're in these waves, man. I wish there should be I should become the Weird Al of finance and make instead of don't go chasing waterfalls, don't go chasing waves. And it's just about you and your charts.
Yeah, there's a lot of waves on this chart, right?
There's a lot of waves on this chart, man. What are we doing here?
But
Some wavy lays over here.
But I mean, I couldn't find a chart in crypto that is better laid out than Solana. This thing has been played to a T, all these wave counts, right? So, I mean, we've had 5 waves down. We got our 3 little wave recovery, another 5 waves down. We had our, this is probably the perfect, best 3 wave I've ever seen. It's this one here when we went from $7 all the way to 27, back down to about 12, and then shot back up to about 31. That's a perfect 3 wave move. And now we're in this, 5 wave move to the downside. And I think this is the end of, the last 5 waves that we're anticipating, that I'm anticipating personally. My target for Solana hasn't changed since the beginning of the year. I think that we have to fill out this gap between $12 and $8. And I think that we're going to have to go lower than the low that we already put in. I think we're probably going to go towards that $4 to $5 range. That's just my personal opinion of what I'm looking at based on the wave counts. I also think that anything that's an altcoin hasn't put in the bottom yet, just because I don't believe Bitcoin's put in the bottom. And if those two are correlated, Bitcoin dominance over alts, I'd assume that there is still a significant move to the downside for a lot of these altcoins. Solana is no different. But if we look at this up here, I mean, this is, I charted this back in June or July 14th or something like that. July 15th, yeah, right around Ripple. I said, okay, this is the top. Let's count 5 waves down. I mean, it's played out to a key. And right now we're in the middle of wave 3, in my opinion. So that means we still have a pretty good move to the downside coming. Doesn't have to play out
It
this,
looks like the Visa
linearly.
news may have slightly delayed that wave, but it's still heading there.
Oh yeah, 100%. This is and again, there's waves within waves. I'm not going to go complex and go into it even further, but as we know, this wasn't enough to bring the price up significantly. It didn't bring it up, above this A wave here. If this shot up above this, then likely we'd be in a different situation. That means that wave 3 would have been over, and likely, this would be a different pattern entirely. But nothing's been invalidated. I still believe that we have a significant drop here. Not saying that's going to happen immediately, but when it does start to move, I would be keeping an eye on this range down here. But yeah, I've never been a Solana guy myself. I think that Solana, has had a lot of issues in the past few years, and I think it shot up way too quick in that bull market back in 2020, 2021. And I see that the community has stayed fairly strong. And again, I'm a person that, if it's for, I'm not in it for the tech always. I'm looking for value for a lot of the time. And again, I'll be honest with that. I think that there's a good chance that when this does bottom, there might be some pretty good opportunity. So I was telling you before the show, maybe I'll pick up some Solana. Not a crazy time. I'm not going to fucking throw everything into it, but I don't think it's a bad idea when everything's down significantly and a lot of people have remained on the Solana blockchain. A lot of users. I don't know. I think that might not be a bad play. So I take back thinking that
So
Solana was going to die, but I
where
think
do
it's
you so we're not trying to time the bottom here, and we're not telling people where to buy in or anything.
sure.
Where do you see Solana potentially going when the next bull market occurs for crypto? Like it topped out at like $280 during the
Yeah.
pre-bull market. Do you realistically see that as a potential level again in the future? Do you see $100? Like what is your, as you think about, because we're at such a boring place in the market, we can kind of figure out where we want our entries and exits to be moving forward. Where do you see this going, in the years ahead?
So Crazy Kevin says, $4, $5 is where I'm gonna personally put my bids in. But again, I think reasonable is that bottom that we got back in December of 2022. Yeah, like post FTX when we put that bottom in. I think that was anything below there
It's like
isn't a
what, $8?
yeah, it was like $8, like $7.97 or something like that. But I don't necessarily think that's a terrible entry point. Anything below there, considering how much it was at one point, I think there's a lot more bullish news for Solana now than there was prior to reaching $7, $8. I think this Visa news is extremely important, and the blockchain itself isn't terrible. It's just there was a lot of issues with blackouts, and it didn't seem super decentralized. It was fairly centralized. But again, I'm not here for the tech or anything like that. I think that there's an extreme amount of value. I think that transactions are fast on the blockchain itself. I wouldn't be surprised if again, I hate doing price predictions because I don't fucking know where it is. I'd be happy if it went to $100. You know what I mean? It's value for me. But I think that, 71 to 206 isn't a bad level. Like, that's not a bad range, I don't think.
Range, yeah.
But again, we would need a lot of money to be coming in. And if we're anticipating something, a major collapse, right? and we're anticipating a lot of money to start coming in. We're not probably going to see another major collapse if everything plays out very similarly to how past recessions have played out. There's a period of people just buying nonstop, and then eventually we get another collapse. I think that there could be a situation where you go test all-time highs. So keeping an eye on this one. I think this could be a really good buy. Some people didn't get into Ethereum at $90. Maybe this is a very similar situation here. I'm not saying it is, but it's very
So
possible that this could be great returns.
yeah, and this is why knowing what kind of an investor you are, if you're passive versus active, like you and I both strongly feel that Solana is going to go below $20.
Yeah.
But we also believe that it's probably, it could very, very well 3, 4, 5x from here, even more. And so if you're, if you watch our show, maybe once or twice a week kind of a thing, and you're not super active in the markets, I don't hate the idea of setting up a small DCA right now, whether it's like $100 a month, whatever it may be, because I think it'll be a few years before we see Solana hit those levels again.
Exactly.
But I do think we'll get there. And so if you start DCAing now, you'll be able to get in at this level. You'll be able to buy it. It'll be set up to buy for you at lower levels. So at this point, just having your ducks in a row, having yourself budgeted out, having consistent cash flow, knowing how much you want to allocate to DCAing into whether it's Bitcoin, ETH, Solana, Link, any of those tokens, it can be a good idea. Oftentimes we've seen that people who begin to DCA when sentiment is low outperform people who are just waiting for the perfect time to buy, especially because not everyone is cut out for trying to time the market, right? And so this is just one of those points of being self-aware enough to know how good you are at this and how active you want to be. And if you don't want to be very active, there's nothing wrong with setting up a DCA at this point.
Couldn't have said it any better than myself.
And I said DCA a lot. If you don't know what that means, that's dollar cost averaging. So basically setting up a recurring buy, whether it's through Coinbase or some other exchange, and whether it's like a weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, it automatically, sets up to buy a dollar amount of tokens on whatever time interval you set up.
Exactly. So that's all I got. That's all I got with Solana. Again, we don't talk about it too often, but I do think that, again, just because we're bearish doesn't mean that there isn't value in things when the chips are, down the lowest they possibly can be. I don't think that is just yet. Again, that's not financial advice, never is. But I think that's, for me, value is really important, and we're going to keep looking for it even when we expect the market to drop a lot more, most likely. So that's Solana. I do want to take a look at Bitcoin real quick, just because it's been boring.
We do Tesla.
Yeah, absolutely. Tesla's having a really good day today too.
I want to talk about that.
Let's do Bitcoin real quick because it's sorry guys, lots of fucking lines. But again, let's keep an eye on what's most important here. This is Bitcoin on the daily, right? We had that stupid wick up here with grayscale, and then it got rejected all the way down. We're back in the sideways range. Absolutely boring, right? This is the level you need to keep an eye on, 25,284. This is the orange line right here. Keep an eye on this because this is the thing that we need to break. If we want to continue this pattern to the downside, that's what we want to see break. I honestly think that 23.6 is a really good level for us to try and take out to finish this fifth wave down. Then we will have a 3-wave bounce most likely, which would be this wave right here, this wave 1, the wave 2. And then we have another wave move down. And let's not get ahead of ourselves, but right now we need to finish this waves down here to finish wave 1 to this move to the downside on the macro. I think this move that we shot up here to test this blue line, that's rejected. We got rejected off the 50 moving average on the daily. It's likely that we're not going to probably get back in here. And if we were, I think that we probably would retest it, or would have retested fairly soon. But keep an eye on this, the daily. Every time we close below the 200, that 50 is coming. That death cross is coming for Bitcoin on the daily. So that likely means that we're going to see some negative price action moving forward. Again, watch out for liquidations. I still believe that we are in a liquidity hunting season. Nothing has changed. This fucking piece of shit train right behind my house is blowing its horn. Oh, man. Happy Tuesday, guys. But yeah, this is okay. There we go. So the death cross is coming for Bitcoin. As long as we continue to close, what the fuck is wrong with TradingView? All these pop-ups. 50 moving average and the 200 moving average to right here. If we can't close above either of these, then it's just going to keep going until we get that death cross, and it's likely forecasting this move down here to 23.6, right? Then we're going to want to see a correction. So we're going to want to see this move to the upside. But right now, keep an eye on the 25,284. It's been an extreme level of support. Every time we test it, I think it gets weaker. And I think that the next time we test it, it's going to break. A lot of people are saying that they're pushing the price down. Honestly, I'm seeing people hold the price up, right? Yesterday, I saw $250 million worth of ETH just dumped on the Coinbase. That doesn't give me confidence that people want to buy this shit unless they have someone that they know that's willing to buy that at spot. So Bitcoin, I'm still anticipating negative price action. However, still not out of the woods yet. I could definitely see us testing this 200 EMA again. It's very possible. But I think that's once we get below this level, that's going to be our target down there.
Yeah. You got all the influencers out here who are victory lapping that Bitcoin hasn't dropped further. There was also, I believe Mr. House shared with us in our chat that there's a study around influencers and finance, and the loudest, most vocal, most frequent tweeters about the price of crypto or stocks are usually the worst traders out there. So just something to keep in mind when you're seeing these people, really pumping their bags is like, what's their motive, and are they actually any good at this? And I would say for the most part, they are dog shit when it comes to playing the markets.
I would like to add, though, that gentleman also believes that Binance is going to go under, right? But at the same time, he thinks that Bitcoin is going to go up. In what fucking world, using his own logic, does that happen? Look what happened to FTX. What happened to Bitcoin's price? Yep. So
what happened to every other exchange or every other, but that logic doesn't really, that's like 2 + 2 = banana. Like, I don't get it.
To quote The Big Short, it's like 2 + 2 = fish.
Yeah, that's what I was going. There we go. There. Great line from The Big Short. I love that one. Great movie. Okay. Let's look at Tesla. So Tesla is on having a nice pump today, up about 5%. Sales in China came in, 9% higher than last year. So they're seeing a move up there, up 1275 on the day, which is quite nice. My question now becomes, at what point, like, I don't want to miss out on Tesla because I'm hoping for the bottom to come in. I'm trying to just decide where I want my entry to be for Tesla, because this is the stuff out of China is great. Their economy is kind of shaky. What I really think is going to be the next big mover is when sales in India start to roll in, because as we've discussed on this show, we're both very bullish on the economy in India in the years ahead, them potentially surpassing China as the number 2 economy in the world. Potentially, I think maybe not in my lifetime, but the number 1 global economy.
What's India?
Huh?
What's India? You mean Bharat? They're changing the name of the country.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Did you hear that?
I did not hear that.
Oh, yeah, that's actual thing. They're actually going to change the name of the country. So, I didn't even know if you knew that, but India is not going to be India anymore. They're going to vote on it September 18th or something like that.
Well, until that becomes official, I'll continue to refer to it as India. But with their middle class being one that many economists believe will grow in the future, I think that the next big mover for Tesla's stock price could be India. Tesla's making an emphasis over there. It's not widely adopted, but they are, I saw, building a specialty model just for India that is a bit lower priced that I think will drive sales. And so to me, I have to begin to wonder, I don't want to miss out on the upside of Tesla, because I do think that we will see it hit all-time highs in the future. That being said, I don't know if now is the right time to buy. I'm trying to play out in my head, is 200, like, if we get back to, do I buy some at 225 and then 200 and then 175? Because I'm just not as confident as you are that they are going to get down under $100 a share.
Yeah. I'm confident, and I look at this chart, and this is what's really weird to me, because again, what I'm doing is was that you or is that me?
That was me.
Oh, great. That was me. I was about to say, I have no friends. No one's going to call me. But
it wasn't a friend. It was a spam call. Like, my best friend is, is potential spam or scam likely. Like those are my best friends when it comes to people who call me.
Yeah, that's who FaceTimes me too. Uh, I'm I'm looking at this stupid shit right here. And again, I'm a wave guy. I'm looking for waves. I don't know this. I'm not saying this is what it is, but I'm saying this is a pretty massive wave down here that we got all the way to August 2023, 213, right? We've had a pretty good move to the upside from since. I'm thinking this is a wave one. I think this is one massive wave one, and we're in wave two right now. Which I mean, I don't know if people like this or not, but that means wave three, which is usually the biggest and most impulsive wave, is it's still in the cards. Yeah, I could be wrong. I could be wrong. And again, this is really early, so we have to see where if we start to move down from wave two, where this plays out. But again, if I'm looking at this on, let's look at the daily. Yeah, guys, it's very possible this is a fucking wave one. We're in wave two, and we're waiting for wave three. And the reason I say that is because here's the 50 moving average, and here's the 200. We might have got that golden cross, but if we start closing below this 50, and then we start getting below this 200, I mean, that's very possible. And again, look at the stochastic RSI. It's very possible that we start moving lower. We start trending way further down, which means that wave five would still be in play. And say wave five is absolutely insane. Say wave three's big, massive move to the downside. I'm not saying it's going to go down that low, but maybe like 120s or something like that. We get a little bit of a bounce, but people could just be slow. This could be a slow bleed down to this level. It's very possible, but I'd keep an eye on this. This is a massive wave one, so that might be a really bad sign for this price action. I don't necessarily. I'm not convinced on it just yet. I think that $64 is just a great level compared to where we are. And again, we're charting this on a macro ABC to the downside. And since we didn't go higher than, we didn't reach up here at 417 with this B wave, that means that it's not a flat correction. It means that we're likely going to put in a lower low than what we did back in January of this year. So I'm still game with $60, $64, $65 with Tesla. Not saying it's going to go there. Again, not financial advice ever, but this wave one that I'm seeing right here, it's very possible that this is part of a really big move to the downside. And it's just waiting for us to start closing below that 50 and the 200 EMA on the daily. So I'm going to keep an eye on that. That's something I didn't really notice. Concerns me a little bit, but I'm not necessarily saying that it's over for Tesla just yet. They've had a pretty good bounce here since bouncing off that 200 EMA.
All right. Anything else in the charts you want to look at? Otherwise, we can wrap it up. Nothing has really caught my eye. It's boring out there. I think we're going to continue to see. I think this week could be kind of stagnant unless we get any bombshell news similar to what happened this morning with Saudi Arabia and Russia.
Definitely, yeah. That's I think that's going to be the same thing. This week is very lackluster. However, I will say that this market is very, like I said, we're in the red zone. You have to be careful. There's a lot of things that could happen, and it's very easy to get trapped out in this point where market continues to go up, even though all the signs are pointing towards the downside. Like I wouldn't be surprised if the dollar shooting up and equity shoot up at the same time, and people are just like, "The fuck's going on here?" Doesn't make sense. People get in, right? So you got to keep an eye on that. I think the dollar is my main metric. I mean, we just crossed 104.8. We were at 104.9. It looks like, yeah, 104.907. My target of 105.651 is not too far away. And look at the daily stochastic RSI. It's very possible we get into that overbought territory. Not today. We got like maybe 2 days before we get into the overbought, and we could stay overbought for a period of time. We break above it, and then on our way down, maybe we find some support on this, and that's kind of what we want to see. That would be a break of this channel, and it gives us a pretty good sign that we're able to sustain this move to the upside, which we weren't back here in March during the banking crisis. So that's the important thing with the dollar. I do want to take a look at one chart real quick, not necessarily on TradingView.
It's funny to me to see the dollar putting in its highest level since March, and the VIX is still under 14. I think this market doesn't know what the fuck it wants to do. And as soon as we see more fear in it, that VIX number is going to spike up.
Oh, I completely agree. And I think there's a lot of keep an eye on the dollar, keep an eye on the VIX. I think the VIX is going to be one that just fucking rips when you least expect it. I think that's what we've seen. And remember, I can't remember what it was. I think it was the banking crisis when it shot up to like 29 or 30 or something like that. It was just absolutely insane. But this is something that I was looking at earlier. Rising demand for Fed bank lending program, not a sign of stress. We're currently at 108, I believe, 108 billion. Yep, right here. BFTP loans stood at $108 billion on Wednesday. I believe that was last week. They're saying that it's slowing down, so that's showing that the banks are getting stronger. However, banks since then have still taken out another $32 billion from this program. Powell continues to say that it's not quantitative easing. I still think that this is a place where anyone who is grabbing any of these loans from here, this borrowing period, where it's a bit of a discount. I think that these are a lot of the people who are hurting the most, right? So we keep in mind that the banks are still continuing to borrow from this program during the discount window. And we also know that there is the FHLB loans, the Federal Home Loan Bank loans, which have been a huge indicator for some of the banks, Signature, First Republic, Silicon Valley, that they've been going down. I just want to take a look at St. Louis Fed has the best charts. They give you everything you need. This is the Federal Home Loan Bank balance sheet, total assets held by them. We can see how much has been loaned out, right? So taking a look at this, I'm going to zoom in. You can see that in 2000, when we started to see, issues with the dot-com bubble, it shot up. Prior to that, it's extremely low values and, the millions of dollars of absolutely borrowed. But we can start to see now, look at this. We've actually are at the highest level that we possibly have ever been. And if we take a look back at 2008, we see that in 2007, it starts to shoot up, right? By the time we get to Q2, Q3 of 2008, it's over. That's the collapse right there. We can see that from down here, 2021, all the way up to where we currently are now. This only goes to Q1 of 2023. I imagine that it's a lot higher. Again, Wells Fargo's also been borrowing like fucking crazy. Everyone on that sheet that we shared earlier, absolutely insane how much they've been borrowing, those top banks. If this is any indication of banks that are showing that they're in a liquidity crunch, that they don't have a lot of money on hand, this seems worse than 2008. Just looking at this chart, right? So when we're looking at this along with the bank term funding program, and again, they're saying that that's over. It's been 6 months since that's begun. It's only open for a year. I wouldn't be surprised if we're getting closer to this crunch. Again, it's not going to be when you expect it. It's going to be, you're going to wake up one morning and these banks are going to be just like absolutely like margin call. They're just going to sell off their assets, or they're just going to be like, yeah, we don't have any of these assets on hand anymore. So keep an eye on this, because this is a very scary metric, just as much as, everyone has been saying that we're not going into recession. Goldman Sachs reduced it from 20% to 15%. Let's not forget what Goldman Sachs did back in 2008. They fucking pretty much put AIG almost out of business, and then they bought credit default swaps on them too. So keep an eye on what everyone's saying. I think everyone is lying and full of shit, but the data is showing and painting a picture that is not pretty. This one is very fucking ugly. I say that we're in the red zone because we are in the red zone. Doesn't mean it's going to collapse tomorrow, next week, next month, but it's very close. That's all I'll say. I'm not saying the move is very close, but you have to be, keep in mind that they will screw everyone over on the way up and down. And it's very possible that they do it in the short term, but this is not sustainable. We have, student loans, that is starting to be paid out. I think October 2nd is the date where they have to start paying, some of those loans that were held back during COVID. It's also the date that's kind of oddly enough, the day that the government's planning to shut down. So we got a fun few months here, guys.
It's going to be a wild end of the year.
Just because it's boring today, exactly. Just because it's boring today doesn't mean that there isn't leading indicators that are pointing towards what direction this market is going. I think I've said enough in that regard.
Yep. Don't get complacent. Stay tuned in. We're gonna be on top of it for you. Help try to navigate this thing together as best we can. But that's gonna wrap it up for today. Thank you everybody for watching. If you have not yet, hit the buttons down below. Like, comment, subscribe, share, all of that good stuff. We'll be back tomorrow at our regular time, 3 p.m. Eastern. So join us then. We'll kind of dissect some of the Fed speak, what that is doing to the markets. Any other news that comes out, we'll be covering it as well. Have an awesome rest of your day, everyone. Protect your assets, and we'll see you next time.
Take care, everyone.